Before we begin, thank you very much to Bento for joining the Patreon campaign. Big fan of your boxes, and thank you for contributing and keeping the channel alive a little bit at a time. I appreciate everyone who helps do that. I have to get right into the video today because it's Q&A time, and as you can tell, we're doing it at the shop today because, frankly, I was so exhausted last night. There was no way I was going to be able to actually go through this because we've got over 170 comments to go through. Really quick, if you are here to leave a question for the next one, remember, one question per person. Keep it to something short and snappy so we can get through as many people as possible. I try to answer everything that gets asked, so try to play fair and be mindful of, don't ask me anything that's going to make me go, wait, hang on, I need to think about this for like a quarter century before we answer the next question. Just try to keep, I'm just going to try and keep the train coming as fast as possible. And obviously, it can be anything, but keep it to YouTube TOS, please. So, standard rules of the Q&A out of the way. Let us get started. The first one is the Tripredix Council were quite underutilized in the Beast era cartoon. Assuming they somehow survived Megatron's invasion of Cybertron, what would your first thoughts be for a Maximals vs. Tripredix Council storyline? It depends on how you word it. Obviously, everything that happened in Beast Machines, there was absolutely no mention of them and no attempt for them to interfere, so I don't think they were around. But if we're doing a hypothetical Beast Wars Season 4, they're definitely villain material, and because Megatron's the only Predacon left, and because it's kind of the logical outcome, he's either going to try and manipulate them and take the... Well, here's what's happening. He'll probably side with the Maximals just until he gets close enough to the Tripredix Council to take them over. That's probably where that would end up going, which would be a really fun story to run, actually. That might be a future what if. Do you think more Unicron Trilogy should make it into the movies? Potentially. I don't think you're going to see the gimmicks come back because they're too cost-intensive, but the designs and the characters, like, I think that would work. Vector Prime alone to do, like, time travel nonsense in the Transformer movies would be pretty fantastic. If you had to introduce your story concept into a pre-existing continuity, which one would you pick? Probably stick it somewhere. My pre-existing story stuff would either be like a side story to Beast Wars on another planet, or what happens between Generation 1 and Beast Wars, which is not a story that's ever been officially told, not in like G1 Beast Wars canon. So that one would be fun to do too. With Earthspark probably getting a second season. It is getting a second season. It's already been greenlit. What characters or concepts would you like to see show up in the show? Well, I mean, obviously I want my favorite characters to show up. Your Blitzwings, your Star Sabers, etc., etc. Concept-wise, I would love to see what happens when the Autobots and Decepticons try to live together post-war without, like, starting up hostilities again. You're going to have rebellious Decepticons, but we kind of learn that it's not always the case. You know, there's shades of gray to the Earthspark Decepticons. I'm really curious to see what happens now that Ghost is gone and Decepticons do not have to live in fear of getting captured by them. Do some join up with the Autobots? Do some try to live peacefully? Or do they start the war up again? It's a big question mark what if scenario. They have places to go, which is interesting. Since we're definitely getting an Armada Wheeljack out of Kingdom Sideswipe mold, I'd love to see the Armada sideways. Here's another one. If you have just a comment, if you're just responding to a question or an answer that I've given in the video, please make sure you mark comment or not question before you start typing, because otherwise I'm just going to start reading your I'm just going to start reading the whole thing. It's going to take up time. Who's Cyclonus and who is his Armada? His Armada is a script and animation error. There's nothing really more about that. It would take away what Cyclonus is to actually assume that he had multiples like the sweeps did, even though animation errors say otherwise. As for which one of the characters he is, I really don't care. I don't care if it's Skywarp or Bombshell. I don't know. It's not worth. It's never been something I put too much thought into. It's whichever one you think it is. Let's go with that, shall we? Will the Rise of the Beast mainline figures have individual releases online outside of the Target 3 packs? I can't imagine that they aren't going to produce those molds somehow, but I have no idea how at this point. We do have that mystery listing for like A series studio series, like, or like A class, something A, right? Like, if they decide to do like, if that is like their way of getting the Rise of the Beast toys out and just like sneak them into studio series as like an alternate size class or something, that I could see. That I could see. Um, I can't imagine they would produce brand new molds and only release them as multi-packs though. See, could you think of a new, more toy slash cartoon friendly alternate modes for the rest of the DJD? That is not short enough because that would take a lot of research. No, no, like I'm trying to like really quickly, and I'm just I'm drawing a blank here. Like that is something I would absolutely have to do more research into to figure out the actual answer. Oh no. No. I'm sorry. No. If you're right, if you're posting a paragraph, no. Um Hero Escape to Renegade Studios. How would you feel about the sub crossover packs of their Hasbro licenses, including Transformers? What you're describing, they already did. They already had a Tactics was their crossover minifigurine game. It didn't go over well, and I can't imagine it would do well if they tried it again. You're more likely to just make a successful game and then incorporate crossover characters as like specialty waves or something instead of like making that the whole goal. How would you implement alt mode transformations as a gameplay mechanic in a Transformers video game? I'd probably make areas that specifically required the vehicle modes rather than like just being like a fast transport, like a dash button. It'd be something where like this is too narrow for robot mode, or it's too low to the ground for robot mode, or it's, you know, your robot mode's not quick enough to dodge this stuff. Things like that. Because I do think there are better ways to incorporate it than a lot of games do. But it's tricky. You'd have to work all the way around it. Okay, let's see. Where's the question here? Let's see. Okay, so it's basically asking about the Dicelings, the transforming D20s from the new D&D stuff. What would I put into the last wave of Dicelings? So they're going to do all 5 chromatic dragons. That's easy. I wouldn't be surprised if they also went into the metallic dragons, just because they could. Thinking about monsters, they've done a lot of the classic monsters. I thought the Mimic was like peak Diceling. Like that one was great. I'm trying to think of others offhand. I mean, I think your king of all Dicelings would be like a whole set of D20s that combined into a Tarrasque, which you just have to sell as just like a multi-pack thing. Beyond that, I'm trying to think of other D&D monsters that would work in that shape, and not a whole lot's coming to mind. Which might just be me like brain fried on D&D at the moment. Do you think it'd be possible to either officially or fan done for the music from Transformer toy commercials to be available someday? Like licensing for toy commercials is weird. I don't even know if those artists are still around or if there's any rights whatsoever to that music at this point. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, the music is out there in its unaltered form somewhere, but that's such obscure material. I don't even think anyone would even know where it is, because commercial material is very disposable, and it's very rare that it survives. What do you want to see Hasbro bring back? From any of the original characters from the canceled Transformers universe game, whether in fiction. To be honest, honestly, like, I don't know Transformers universe, the game, very well to actually say that. But considering it's a canceled game that never came out, yeah, that's going to be way too obscure. I don't even think, even as a capsule line, I don't think you'd get away with that. Okay, I'm basically skipping through. If I don't see a question mark, I'm just skipping through. And here's someone else asking me to reassign the DJD as something else, either existing characters or to completely come up with new alt modes. Again, that takes a little bit more research than that. That's going to take a little bit more thought, and it's going to be a slow question. No slow questions, please. My question is the next one. Do you think it would be cool and interesting if a Transformers character switched an alt mode with another Transformers character, which in turn affects the personality? So I'm actually kind of cool with this. Like, Rescue Bots did this to great effect, where they kept switching around the alt modes of these characters. Same character, different alt modes. I would love that. I would love to do like some weird concept like that. Like all of a sudden Grimlock has to figure out how to be like a cute little car and Bumblebee is the dinosaur. That would be fun. That'd be like chaotic fun for a cartoon line. What do you believe the stretch goals would be for a HasLab Devastator? So, alternate head that has the visor rather than the two eyes. Toy accurate parts. So, like the extra drills and things that Devastator would normally have, that would be in there. Potentially Energon cubes for them to store around, or like effect parts. What else would be good in there? What else would be a good component? That's actually tricky. The hilarious one would be if they threw in like a remold of one of them to act as like the extra Constructicons from like Five Faces of Darkness. Weird one, like weird choices like that. But I think the bread and butter there is to make a HasLab Devastator that's cartoon accurate, and then like the stretch goals can be all the parts they need to be toy accurate. Let's see, perpetual go-to question: what's your favorite type of characters and stories, as in archetypes of personalities and plot lines? Offhand, that is going to take a little bit of time, but just give you like the one that's off the top of my head. I like anti-heroes, and I like villains who become good. So I like Dinobot and IDW Megatron so much. Like, I'd like to see like a Transformer line where like the big crux of it is like a major villain becomes the leader, you know, or a major player in the Autobots, which we're kind of getting with Earthspark right now. If you could choose any writer series to get all of its transformation-based toys from, who would be your pick? My birthday has already passed, so I'm going to feel safe answering this one. So, truth be told, I've gotten a ton of, like, the ones that I've gotten really into. I've gotten most of what there was. I mean, there's part of me that would really like all the Progrise keys, because 01 had a lot of belts and a lot of really cool keys and effects. That one was a lot of fun. There's a lot of different things in Geet's toy line that I don't have. That would be really cool. I'm trying to think back to like some of the older ones, or like some of the ones that I like completely missed out on. There's not a lot. There's not a lot. The point is, like it's a hard question to answer, because my answer would be all of it. There's part of me that even wants that wishes I still had all of my Gaia memories, and I had all the ones that I missed. Even though that deal with like 1,000 button cell batteries, that would be chaos. If you can choose any writer series, no, that's the same one. Since they can never make a Unicron that's to scale, what would you think of a leader or commander class Unicron and Primus? You're not going to do those. You're not going to do leader or commander unless they're completely different concepts for Primus and Unicron, which would mean they'd have to be incorporated into probably Earthspark in some way that shrinks them down considerably and makes sense of them. The kind of way that they did in Transformers Prime. But even then, you would have to make it Titan class. I don't think you could ever do something that big. I don't think you could ever do those two characters and be any smaller than a Titan. Which interpretations of Unicron do you prefer? 86 in Rise of the Beast type, where he's a mysterious power force, or the Align continuity such where he's mythologized and clearly defined as a godlike force? I do like God of Chaos Unicron. I do like him as a more mythological thing rather than a construct. That when he was like, when we found out like IDW 1.0 ended with a Unicron that was literally just like a big machines of revenge somebody made, that feels so weak. That feels so weak compared to what you want out of Unicron. I like gigantic omnipotent force that's like entropy made steel. That's the kind of Unicron I like. What do you think about Megatron Rex as an alternate name for Beast Wars Megatron? Do you think, I don't think it would have been an improvement. I mean, you're tacking on the Rex thing, which once they make him a dragon doesn't work anymore. I I don't mind him just being Megatron because it plays to his personality and it plays more interesting story elements than just trying to make him unique like Optimus Primal. You know, and that was all in Primal himself. Like, that name's confusing enough. I don't necessarily think it would have been an improvement, but, you know, at least you could tell the two apart, I guess. Serious question. Open to a collaboration to discuss the representation of DID in Transformers. I'll be honest. I don't know what DID is, and I apologize for that. It feels like that will get into a subject that's a lot heavier than I like to do. I like to be more upbeat, and if I'm not upbeat, I'm being like angry to a ridiculous level, you know, and I want it to be cathartic. Getting into topics of like illness and chronic diseases, that's not really my thing. And I think that, and while there's education to be had there, I do think that would be just too much of a downer of a video. I like to uplift people's days. So sorry, that's probably not happening. Let's see, would it be fair to me to think that more Armada Micron Destined characters getting brand new Chug figures, almost all of them deserve and would be much better off having their own brand new molds? Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah. I mean, because you really want them to be the best that they can be, especially because it's been over 20 years for some of those characters without a new toy. So you want them to be unique. You want them to be original and to be as good as they possibly could be. I'd like to see Sideways as his own mold so you can incorporate his elements correctly. I don't think he'd necessarily work as a retool of Prowl like a lot of people think he'd be. You just have to think that because that's how modern Hasbro thinks. If it's close enough, they're going to make it a retool because they need to get more uses out of the mold. But I don't think that's necessarily what they need to do for like a lot of these Unicron Trilogy characters. It works only for Wheeljack because Wheeljack is kind of based on Sideswipe to begin with. Beyond that, I'd really like them to just be their own thing. Have you ever customized a Transformer? Twice. Once it did not work out so much. I was going to redo, I was in the middle of redoing Energon Ironhide into Trailbreaker, which I got halfway through. It was painted, it was still disassembled. I'd done work to actually switch out his left hand for a gun hand, and it actually hinged down to actually fit in the vehicle mode. I got stuck on the head because there was I remember there was a knockoff toy at the time that had like a very Trailbreaker-esque head that I wanted to get, and I could never find it at the time. So that one like just kind of fell short. The one that actually worked is I redid Energon Sharkticon into Night Cruise from RID because it's one of my favorite color schemes. And that one I still have. That one went well. That one's still sitting on my desk somewhere. Why are the newest Transformer toys so hard to find at physical retail stores like Target and Walmart? Because distribution is an absolute nightmare now. You remember that whole Suez Canal thing where a boat got stuck? They're still recovering from that. They're still behind, and shipments are still very inconsistent because of it. I mean, it's literally like years before that is going to get completely sorted out. So we've just gotten whatever. You know, it's the same reason why, you know, Amazon will tell you, we're expecting this, you know, October, maybe November, and you already have it. Things like that. And we're probably going to be in for that for a long time. Let's see, who'd you choose? It's also just because like they overstock themselves and stuff that isn't going to sell. Period. That's kind of how it goes too. What would you choose for VA for Universe 03 Optimus Prime, the yellow one, if she was able to get an appearance in a cartoon? I think Jen Taylor. Maybe not the voice of Ash. I mean, it's still a Prime. Like, even if you are taking, like, the Yellow Splendid Convoy, who is a female character, you're still talking about a convoy. It needs to be a more commanding, authoritative voice. Like, I might pick, like a Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who has, like, kind of a bass to her voice. Like, a much deeper voice than what you get out of an Ash Ketchum type character. What would you recommend for transforming the Legacy Evolution Tarn chest without having it break off? Because Hasbro had the brilliant idea to make it clear plastic. Cross your fingers, hope for the best. About all that you can do is just like sand down or lubricate parts so that they don't stress as much. but you still need friction for them to work as parts. So on that one, you just be careful and cross your fingers. But don't cross your fingers while transforming it. That will probably end up with breakage. Do you think that Hasbro should revisit TransTech? The hard part with TransTech is I love some of the design work in there. In incredibly far out concepts for Transformers that I think would freshen up everything a bit. But there's absolutely no way for them to reuse the molds. So they would be really expensive if they actually did it, and probably a huge risk because TransTech is so obscure. They would have to bank on those looking incredibly cool to kids. And I'm not sure they could actually pull that off with today's budget. So it's probably best that they don't try that one again. Let's see. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on Prime's smokescreen, both on his own and in comparison to his G1 self? Honestly, the G1 smokescreen, let's be honest, is pretty thin as a character. He only had one episode about him, and all it really said was he likes to cheat at gambling. As a character, the original smokescreen, I mean, the whole, like, he almost got the Matrix is a little bit forced. They're trying to bill him as, like, a hot rod type in that series. I didn't mind him as, like, a hotshot character who had to grow. I think in that, he worked as a character. Maybe not as fleshed out as I would have liked him to be, but not a bad character. Not a bad take. And it's Nolan North, so how much bad can I say? I don't see why should Broadside be a leader when he tussles with Predaking Devastator in A Burden Hardest to Bear, undoubtedly his best appearance in G1. Only because I don't think well, let's be honest here. If they do Broadside, he is going to be leader class, but he's going to be leader class with bonus parts. You know, he's going to be Voyager with bonus parts like Blitzwing is. That's probably how that's going to be done, just so they have the budget to actually have a triple change. Or, I mean, we're arguing size scale in Generation 1, right? I don't think that's something to go by. Personally, for me, like the 3 Autobot triple changers and 3 Decepticon triple changers should just be a unified team. I think they should all be the same size in robot mode. Out of curiosity, are there any comic original characters, not just IDW, but any comics you want to see get a new toy? A lot of it would be IDW because those are the ones that stand out the most to me. You mentioned Nautica. She absolutely should get a toy of her own. I would love Anode and Lug to get a pair of toys. I mean, I love them as a duo. I would love to have them as toys. I'm trying to think of other ones. There's a lot of like really good original design work in there. I have no idea how Rung was such a big character and all he got was like a tiny little Target Master toy. Not that his actual alt mode would be that interesting to a kid. With every movie lockdown being way too small at Deluxe, do you think of doing it properly should be a leader class being a Voyager with complex engineering and lots of accessories? No. Movie Lockdown is a standard car. He needs to be the size of the other cars. I know he's very large compared in robot mode, but the car companies want their stuff to look good and be correct with everything else, so it has to be deluxe. What you do is engineer it the way animated one was and stretch his parts out a lot more, you know, and actually build him for height. That's kind of the way that you need to go. If he's Voyager, it is only because you need to have the extra parts in order to accomplish that, but you still need to compact his vehicle mode size. That's basically what it comes down to. Leader class turning into a normal car next to a deluxe Bumblebee that's supposed to be the same size, you're never going to get that. That's not going to work. If you could retool any legacy figure into an Optimus Prime, which one and why? People thought the Bulkhead was going to turn into some like Prime iteration of Optimus Prime, like the Beast Hunter one. That's a super weird question. Because there's not a whole lot of legacy figures that scream to me, this could be repainted into Optimus Prime. Honestly, no. I can't think of any. I honestly can't think of any. Any others that could be done are being redone as Orion Pax as we speak. I don't know the latest video. You design a Beast Wars mutant in their original Fusor forms. How would you design them? Okay, so again, this goes into like I would need to do an entire video. You're mostly talking about ones that are fairly obvious, you know, like it's a polar bear with wings. It's an alligator with leathery wings. You know, there's not a whole lot of mystery to how some of these would combine as fusors. You know, things like, you know, raptor and wolverine. Like there's not a whole lot of ways of combining them. You know, you'd have to use the raptor legs because that's the famous part, and then probably be the tail and head of a wolf. You know, think weird combination like that. Scorpion and Barracuda would be much more difficult. You'd probably need some mix between the two tails, and then it'd be a Barracuda with scorpion claws, and like fins, and like the side fins that kind of look like bug legs. It'd be that kind of mix. What do you think would win, Grand Zeo or Decade Complete 21? Grand Zeo is literally a world ender. Decade Complete 21 got clowned in his first appearance. That's not even remotely a close fight. With the recent leaking of Mystery Link Optimus Prime, it's fully revealed now. How would you feel about an inverse of the idea? Modern Transformer turned into a G1 toy, no articulation, simple transformation, etc. I am shocked, and you mentioned it there. I am shocked they've not done that with RC, so you can complete your G1 collection. I would absolutely be down for that. And yes, prototype Fat Unicron is absolutely doable, I think. What Transformers character would you want to see Scott McNeil voice? Is all of the above an answer? Honestly, at this point with nostalgia, his career, etc., I would just want to see him come back to be Dinobot or Waspinator one more time. You know, cast him in Earthspark, somehow get him down. If it wasn't for Canadian acting unions, he probably would have done something else in Transformers by now. Have you ever considered expanding Here's 10 beyond Transformers? Potentially. I kind of like when a series is established as this is a thing, I kind of don't like to shake the tree. The same way that Plastic Addict is always a Transformer series, I don't really envision a Here's 10 that is not Transformer. Though, to be fair, I've done tier lists that aren't Transformer, so that might actually be doable. We'll see. We'll see. It depends on if the right thing strikes me. Have you been watching Geats? Unfortunately, no. Thank you from Peru, by the way. Thank you for watching. Unfortunately, no. I'm so far behind on Kamen Rider because I've been so busy with everything else. I can't just, it's hard for me to just sit down and watch something subtitled these days. You know, I just don't have that kind of time anymore. If you had to make a new/unique origin for Nemesis Prime, what would it be? It wouldn't be Nemesis from Resident Evil. I don't think you're going to manage to infect anyone with a T virus in a robotic form. Again, you're right. That would be a video pitch. I'd have to sit and think about that one again. Which figures from the Prime War Trilogy toy line do you think are fine enough as they are, and what are particularly being redone with modern Transformers? Again, you're asking me to go through an entire toy line in a question that's supposed to be quick and snappy. Offhand, I can't really think of any because of what they were and what they were going for. I don't think any are really all that bad. I might want a better Crosshairs. That's because they made them an Ironhide retool just for the sake of saving mold time. That's pretty much it. Like, I'd really just want that one redone as a proper vehicle. What do you think would be the next Commander class? I have no idea what you're trying to say at the end. What is the next Commander class? That's actually a good question because we're like in this like really weird period with Commander class. They've gone through a lot of like big characters. Yeah, like there's no one from Beast Wars because we know they're getting done at leader class, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else from G1 that would fit. It's a tricky one. We just got Armada Optimus in that scale, and I feel like that one went over so well. It wouldn't surprise me if they did Energon, but probably not that fast. I don't know. That's a really tough one, actually. That's a really tough one. If Yellow Park were to do a kit like the Rise of the Beast figures for one Transformers cartoon, which cartoon would you want them to do, and what characters would you want? It's pretty easy to say Beast Wars because those are the ones where the toys, no matter how good you get, is always going to be like really weird compared to the animation models. I'd love for a company as good at sculpting and paint as Yolo Park to take a stab at the CG models from Beast Wars and just make them as accurate to the cartoon as possible, since they don't have to worry about a beast mode. That's what I thought Transformers Red was going to do, and then they just made G1 toys. Which Beast Wars character would you like to see get a redesign? I mean, Rampage and Black Arachnia Transmetal would both be up there because they are so shell heavy. I might almost say the same thing for Depth Charge, because the gigantic wings create an interesting silhouette, but they're also a very annoying silhouette to put on a shelf. Beyond that, I'm trying to think beyond that. You could make a creepier Transmetal 2 Dinobot pretty well, I think. If we're going like total redesign, I've never liked the look of Transmetal 2 Cheetor. There is a lot in that one. There actually is a lot in that one. How do you think the city bots feel? What do they think when they're in city mode and all their buds are just vibing on inside said city body? I'm going to assume that's a little bit different. Like, you're imagining what it would be like for you to have like a bunch of ants crawling on you, but I don't think they have tactile sense like that. He probably has scanners that tell him like how many are in there, but for the most part, I don't think you'd notice. Otherwise, he'd go insane. Do you think a Transformers cartoon based off of various stories of the Wreckers have any potential? Only if you're doing them as like direct to video for like adult fan style ones, the way DC movies do. Because as a cartoon, the Wreckers get into situations that are just way too brutal. They are like the Transformer version of the Suicide Squad, except they're all good guys from the start, not forced into it. It's probably not viable, just because the stories might get a little too extreme for animation for kids. Have you ever thought about making a video covering other Machine Robo toy lines? We did a bunch of videos back in the day for Mugenbein. Unfortunately, I just don't know enough about Machine Robo lines in order to actually do like a proper video dedicated to them. Like, especially like the 2000s revival, where it was like one core figure and then 4 like drones that made him a supersized figure. I know that was a big thing. I never got those, so I can't really add to any of it. How likely do you think it is they'll ever do a restock of HasLab Victory Saber or another opportunity to back Death Source? None. None ever. No possibility. Zero chance. If that's what you're waiting on, I'm sorry. It is made to order. It is get in when we're offering it, or you do not get it. That is how every HasLab has run since they started it. That is not going to change. They were not crowdfunding to get it mass produced for retail or to run the toy again. They were doing it just for the backers, one time to get into it alone. So if you waited thinking they're going to release it again, I'm sorry. They make it pretty clear that's not what they do for HasLab. So next time you see one that you want to get in on, just back it. I know money is a thing. I know budgets are a thing. But if you really need it, sell some things, shuffle some budgets. They give you like a month and a half. So that's the best I can say. Aside from Japanese G1, have there been humans that for some reason or another became Transformers? The most obvious one is Spike in the original Marvel cartoons becoming the head of Fortress Maximus. He did the same in the cartoon, but it was a far more permanent and long-term thing in the actual comic book. As far as like humans becoming Transformers beyond that, nothing permanent. There is the story in Alternators where Chip Chase's body was transferred into a body of Prowl, and I did a whole video explaining the weird continuity of Prowl 2. Go search it out on my channel. It's insane. And yes, it does involve Chip Chase becoming a Transformer permanently. Do you have the opportunity to play D&D or a similar game that was DM'd by Matt Mercer of Critical Role or Brendan Lee of Milligan of Dimension 20? Would you? With whom and why? I mean, why would be because it's Matt Mercer offering to DM me in a D&D game. I mean, cool points for life. I could live off of that story. Yes, absolutely. I would do that in a heartbeat. I'd probably bring in probably my druid or my ranger, because they were both really fun to play. Because the druid's really fun and the ranger is overpowered nonsense. And with whom? That's the dream of my buddy Gob, who DMs us on Thursday nights over on his Twitch channel. His dream is to run a game with Matt Mercer, to be at that table with the man. Honestly, yeah. Like if I had an option to play with someone else and that was the thing, yeah, I'm absolutely bringing him. Good toy forums, groups, or communities in general. It's kind of messy these days. Like I'm still on TFW 2005. I don't really post anymore. A lot of the groups have gone on to Discord servers, and there are some that are chill, and then there are some that are really nasty, and just like the hive of scum and villainy for the Transformers. You know, your general like racism, bigotry, etc. running rampant type places, which the internet will always provide places for. And it saddens me that is a thing in Transformers fandom, but it is. It is in every fandom. So you really just ask your friends who are on Discord servers, poke around, see which ones they are in, and just ask for them to do a vibe check. Is it chill? Is it fun? Is it accepting? Is it just, what's the feel? And then go from there. I personally don't have any offhand because I kind of just stick to my own. What a good idea for a Transformers Kamen Rider crossover be when the Transformer characters are the collectible gimmick item. No. I think I answered something similar to this before. That diminishes the Transformer element so hard. That's not even a fair crossover anymore, because now you're just making the Transformer like an accessory for the Kamen Rider, and that means the Kamen Rider is the main focus of the crossover. Now, if you want to do it like Minicon style, and they're using Minicons to transform, and they're doing that to fight alongside actual Autobots, there you go. That would be a little bit more balanced. What do you think that separates Transformers from other Transforming robot franchises like Tobots or even Sentai? I mean, at this point, it's longevity. You know how hard it is for a toy line to say, we've been on the toy shelves for 40 years around the world, and be legitimate when they say that? That's a big thing. That's an extremely rare thing. Now, you're talking about like Barbie and Lego as like your type of like other toys that can say the same thing. We've been on the toy shelf without ever taking a break. And even with things like, pro wrestling toys have always been on the toy shelves too, but they've hopped manufacturers 3 or 4 times in that process. So even then, you can't really say what they've done, what Transformers have done. So I think that's just what it is. I think it's just longevity. Considering, I believe strike with. Do you think a toy company would be stupid enough to have AI generated designers? I mean, anytime a company thinks they can use something to save them money and not pay an actual human, they're going to try. Fortunately, Transformers might be a little bit too complex to figure out for an AI, considering the AI that you're talking about isn't making anything new. It's just copying, pasting, and blending it together. It's not actually making anything new of anything. Like, anything is AI. It's a buzzword. It's not real AI. It's a plagiarism engine. And we know that they would not get away with that in the Toyscape, because it needs to be designed by someone who knows what they're doing, who can create new things. So there. Have you seen any of the pre-Zyuranger Sentai, and if so, which one is your favorite? I really haven't. I watched a little bit of Live Man, a little bit of Jetman. Everyone who knows their Sentai says Jetman's the best one. I would probably recommend that if you're looking for one, but honestly, it's like, I have not had the time to go back to old series. Just, even keeping up with new ones is hard for me now. Turning Star Trek guy here. No, not a question. Would you ever want to do a follow-up video to your Transformers show pitch? I probably would. I meant to do a follow-up that was like season 2. This is how season 2 would go. This is how season 3 would go. I might just recycle that idea and just come up with a completely new pitch, because I'd kind of like to come up with something that worked on like the usual Transformers 3-year arc. I think that would, that might be a fun video to do at some point. it sets up a series at least. What character, if any, do you feel had a poorly matched alt mode? Ironhide's Vanette mode doesn't lend itself to a rough and cantankerous personality as much as, say, an old farm pickup truck or utility truck. That one would be another, like, I could dedicate an entire video to that. For the most part, I do think they match pretty well. I mean, I don't think there's anything about an Indy car that tells you, like, stealthy, like Mirage is supposed to be. And I don't think there's anything militaristic about Hound. So, really, you could, like, make arguments for just about any Transformer to say, this alt mode, when you break it down, really doesn't make sense. You know, why does Megatron turn into a gun that one of his untrustworthy minions has to fire him? You know, unless it ends up in Soundwave's hands, you're probably going to get turned on, you know, in one way or another that way. So that's a whole thing. That is a whole thing. Best not to think about. Let's see. Who is a popular character that's still missing out on that definitive version in media? The most iconic depiction of that Autobot or Decepticon. The thing is, every popular character is popular because they have had a really strong, iconic version. You know, like, even there are ones where, like, Hotshot, I think, still hasn't been portrayed ideally. I still think there's room for that, but then again, today you have both Bumblebee and Hot Rod in the mix, so getting Hot Shot in there would be exceptionally difficult. But I would definitely think, like, you could definitely make him a lot better depicted. Just trying to cut back on the annoyance and show more of that, like, potential for leadership that he was supposed to have that I really don't think was portrayed well. So I think he's still missing out. If they did a new Magna Boss, how are they supposed to make the combiner's head turn? You just put it like a little dial. You put like a little dial underneath his chin that makes it go left and right. I've seen toys that do that. Manny faces for the new He-Man line, kind of like that. What's your favorite armor for the Mega Man X series? That's the thing is, I love the idea of Mega Man X having armor attachments, but if I'm being honest here, it's the original. I don't like the designs getting overcomplicated and going too far. I think they all look cool in their own way, up until you get to, like, X6 and beyond, where they start getting weird with the armor and get, like, gimmicky with the armor. I don't like the gimmicky armors like the Gaia armor, or whatever the ninja armor was. I don't like those. Shadow armor. I don't like those. I really do not like the neutral armor from 8. That was horrible. Now, I kind of like the older ones, like Super Nintendo era style, probably leaning toward the original. Why did Hasbro give up on blast effects? Lack of interest? Okay, number one, lack of interest. It's something cool for kids. Collectors don't really care as much. Two, we found out that there's a problem with the plastic because if you leave it attached to ABS for too long, it can melt it or damage the surface of it. Also, I'll give you a little secret. When they include big effects like that, it's to bulk out the price point. The reason they don't come with the blast effects anymore is because the budget shifted downward, and instead of compromising the actual toy, they just removed the blast effect accessory. That's how they compensated for the budget. Things like that get shoved into figures in order to buff them up an extra $5 or so. And then when the budget starts tightening up, when the bean counters start, like, tightening the gears, then they take that stuff out so they don't have to take anything away from the toy itself. That's how that stunt works. Are there any combiner characters you'd rather have a non-combining but excellent figure of? We saw a lot of that in Universe. There's a good Onslaught in Universe 2.0 that's just kind of his own independent thing. I think Combaticons have a lot of potential for that because, like, we've never gotten scale accurate Combaticons. You know, there's no space shuttle that's the right size for blast off, or Brawl for that matter. But also the character like Swindle definitely deserves to have some recognition and like a really solid figure that's not hampered by being a combiner. But there's a lot. There's a lot that you could say that about. But I think the Combaticons have the most potential on that one. What would you like to see the line after Legacy has concluded? Honestly, there's part of me that would love to see a total rework, like a complete rework. They're not going to do it because nostalgia sells, and you know, but you know, I would love for them to just go like, here's a completely new concept. Here's something completely fresh, instead of just relying on nostalgia. We're not going to have it, but you know, a boy can dream. What I really want is another Beast Wars run. Do all the animals they didn't do before. Toy cancellation was most devastating to you. Seeing the prototype for Marauder Megatron from Animated, because that thing looked amazing. I'm trying to think if there's any like real like Transformer toys like the cancellation just bummed me out, or even like just normal toys. Most every toy that I really got hyped about ended up making it to release. I do think it's just like the canceled Animated run, because there's a lot of really good figures that we saw prototypes of that never made it out. Even Hotshot had a great looking figure, and then we never got it. Let's see, what do you think is the most underrated secondary rider? I mean, it's biased because we are dealing with Agito. Well, I'm going to answer an Agito way. It's G3. And it's because he's not dealing with supernatural elements. He's not powered by the force of evolution like Agito. You know, he's not, you know, like drawing from primal forces like gills. He's just a guy in a really fancy suit of armor that doesn't even have like a proper henshin belt. You know, it's just like the closest they can come to building a common rider. And all that's pushing him forward and making him keep up with his more powerful compatriots is just human spirit alone. And it is, when you start thinking about his exploits that way, that makes him a lot more badass than you'd originally think. So I definitely think G3 gets the short end of the stick. Of course, a very biased answer from me. During which Transformers era Toyland of quality of toys became so good at finding a plastic addict victim became nearly impossible? Honestly, that's probably our modern run. If you're like me and you don't really mind some of the modern things about Transformers, like hollowed out parts, etc., I really do find the modern run of Transformers has been very, very good and very, very consistent. I mean, I have to go back to like Combiner Wars to think of anything that would be like close to Plastic Addict, and that's like the breakdown figure, because that one's just kind of junk compared to the rest. But even him's like okay. Like, I still don't think that's Plastic Addict bad. So I really think the modern toys, I really think we're getting some of the best Transformers we've ever gotten, at least as far as like how smart the engineering is on them. If you could make any Transformer movie character into a G1 Legacy figure, who would you pick? I think I kind of went with this. I kind of picked this. It would definitely be Barricade, and not like the Prowl repaint. I would love for him to have his own identity. Bone Crusher, I think I've answered that one before as well, because I still love Bone Crusher's design a lot. Beyond that, I'm trying to think if there's any, because there's a lot of movie characters that would probably look good in G1, but thinking about the movie characters now, I really don't like the movie character look. So that brings up a whole other problem there. Let's see, but I guess those are my stock answers, so I think I'm going to stick with those two. How would you think a character like Bumper should be used in future Transformers stories? There was a really fun take in the IDW books where everyone kept confusing Cliffjumper for Bumblebee, because all they knew him was as like the small round one. And I think that would be kind of interesting. Like, it'd be a very different idea. Like, here's this really famous Transformer, you just happen to look kind of like him, so things are expected of you. There's mistaken identity things, you know, Decepticons that capture you thinking that you are the real deal. Imagine if he got good at that. Imagine if Bumper, like, imagine like we're in like IDW 1.0 where like Bumblebee is the leader of Cybertron. Imagine if Bumper was just like his body double agent, And he was just super good at getting out from Decepticon capture and taking out as many cons in the process. And he just kind of like weaponized the fact that he looks like Bumblebee just to get in and cause destruction. That would actually be cool. That would actually be really cool. And that way the name makes sense. He's kind of the bumper between Decepticons and leader Bumblebee. I got to do a whole video about that now. That idea is like really good. Which Transformers Studio Series figure do you think deserves a redo? There's a lot. Like, the problem with a lot of the Studio Series figures is they're probably as good as they could be, considering how much kibble there is and considering they have to be accurate in vehicle mode. To be honest, I don't get enough Studio Series to really go, well, this one needed a redo, that one needed a redo. The one I'm probably going to go toward the most is probably Shatter, because her jet one was actually really good, and then the vehicle, the car one, was junk. And that was terrible, because that character deserves so much better. She's probably the best villain we've gotten in Transformer movies. So I would love to see Shatter get another shot. Favorite combiner team? Oh, and I'm glad I'm your favorite YouTuber. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your support. I do appreciate it all. What is your favorite combiner team? Again, I've answered this one a lot. Don't mind answering it again. Technobots. I love the uniform color scheme. I love the futuristic spaceships. I love the variety of vehicles in the team. Just all around. I love the idea of like intelligence being used for something that's typically like considered a big brute. Really, really like it. Thoughts on Ruby lately? I really haven't followed. I've kind of like passingly followed Ruby. I'm just kind of like checking in once in a while to keep up with what's going on. The story is getting a little far out there for me. And I don't know exactly how much of it is stuff that Monty was keeping in mind or how much of that was like written out by him and they have to flesh it out without him now. I do like that they actually just like pull the trigger on Bumblebee, not the robot, the ship. So at least they finally got that one done. At least they finally found a spot to do that. Let's see. Would it make sense for a Studio Series 86 Megatron to be a target master for his gun alt mode in monetary core class scale? So I do think it would be super clever that a Studio Series 86 Megatron would include a target master that was his gun alt mode, so you could just have like a little Megatron that turned into the gun that normal size characters could use. Might be like a fun little way of compromising. I definitely think you will see an 86 Megatron at some point. I think it's inevitable, but he's probably just going to be a tank of some kind. Not the Siege one redone, but like a completely new one. Best guess that's what we're going to see. What if Beast Machine Silverbolt was repainted into a Beast Machine's version of Laserbeak and gender swap Buzzsaw? It's still a terrible toy. I don't care. This is like putting LEDs. This is like putting RGB lights on your vacuum cleaner. It's still going to suck. Doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter how nice the paint job is. The toy's still terrible. What's your favorite figure from the War for Cybertron Legacy trilogy? War for Cybertron is a completely different trilogy. And pulling my favorite from there would take a little bit of thought. For Legacy's been doing so many good toys. Legacy's been doing a lot of really good toys. Yeah, that's another one where I'd have to like sit back and just like kind of contemplate that one for a while. Yeah, get back to me on those. We have to do like a whole roundup thing for War for Cybertron, and then Legacy's gonna wrap up next year, so we'll have to get to it then. What is your least favorite or favorite retcon in Transformers off the top of your head? The thing with Transformers is it really doesn't go for retcons very often, so I can't really think of any offhand. You know, they rarely do they actually like go back and go, wait, this is how the universe actually went. No, let's rewrite this story. Usually retcons are done when like something went disastrously bad, but they have to keep the continuity going. Retconning IDWRC into like being a voluntary test subject of G-Axis, that was a necessary retcon. That's a very necessary retcon. And even that didn't really fix it. Once again, we have to reiterate the golden rule of Transformers writing: never let Simon Furman write women. But That's probably the most necessary. I'll say that. I don't know if it's my favorite because of the reasonings behind it, but it's definitely the most necessary. But Transformers just kind of does its own thing, universe to universe, so it very rarely needs retconning. When Peter Cullen retires from his role as Optimus Prime, do you think they should recast the role or give him a grand send-off and let a new Prime lead the Autobots? You're never going to see Transformers without Optimus Prime. Never. I think Alan Tudyk is killing it as Earthspark Optimus Prime. I would not mind that being the new generational Optimus. You have to do the recast. And while you would love to show Peter the respect of like retiring the character that he's most famous for, it's the franchise character. You have to have Optimus Prime in Transformers. So it's very short-sighted. It's never gonna happen. It's nice that you want to respect the actor behind it, but that's just not going. It's just not. You're not gonna want Transformers without its main hero. You know, so no, you're gonna see a recast. And remember, there's been over a dozen voice actors who have played Optimus Prime. It's not exactly sacred anymore. Thoughts on 2012 Ninja Turtles? I thought it was fantastic. I would like to have for it to have had a proper ending instead of that weird like post-apocalypse alternate story they did at the end. But no, it's got some of my favorite characterizations. Like I really, really liked a lot of what they did in that one. I liked the April and Donatello dynamic. That actually was a lot of fun. Thoughts on Kamen Rider Geats? Again, don't really have any. Couldn't watch it. Still need to finish it. See. I think remember in the first version of your channel, you used to have an evil character from the future that was annoying you. What happened to him? Got bored and went back to the future. So the guy who used to talk like this, like he just smoked a road flare. There was a TJTV character. I never really expanded that to be in that character. That's just a thing you did. That's like from the golden age of video reviewers where we're all just trying to be the next angry video game nerd. And you needed other characters to play off of, but when you were a small timer that didn't have a budget to hire somebody to be another character, you just made yourself the other character. So that's kind of what I did, just to have like some kind of weird antagonistical thing to run jokes with. Everyone did that back then. Everyone doing that kind of review. But no, I don't really have the urge to play him again. I really don't. I think that the time for jokes like that have kind of come and gone. I'd rather just be me making jokes. Some new motifs you like to see used in Kamen Rider Super Sentai. We had that one series, like Ryu Soldier was supposed to be an all dragon series, and then they got cold feet and did all dinosaurs instead. I'd love to see like a proper all dragon Sentai team, like they originally intended. For Kamen Rider, we've gone through so many motifs. That one I'd have to sit back and think about to figure out like this is what we would actually want. See, said you had a very cool idea for an April Fool's video, didn't get to do it in time. What was the cool idea? If I remembered what it was, I would have done it already. To be honest, I still don't remember what the April Fool's video. That's the thing, is that April 1st will come up. I will come up with an April Fool's gag, but it's going to be May 1st when I think of the really good one. And then by June 1st, I've forgotten what it is again. I need to start writing things down. What was the biggest Transformers surprise? Be a series that was better than you expected, a show being worse, etc. Biggest Transformers surprise. I think honestly, like just how well the 07 movie did. Because the toys companies weren't prepared for it, retailers weren't prepared for it. I don't think fans were prepared for it. Because remember, Transformers was almost a niche fandom in the mid 2000s. You know, we had an anime that came out of Japan that wasn't all that great. A toy line that really didn't outperform anything else on the shelves at the time. This franchise just kind of performed well enough to justify doing another run of every year. So, that was before we even got into anything retro like classics. So the fact that the 07 movie line and the movie itself did so amazingly well, that was the most surprising, that this franchise actually works as a blockbuster, because I never would have imagined it before then. Where did your obsession with art begin? Where? Huh. See, I like questions deviating from Transformers. Gives me something to answer differently. I've just been an artist my whole life. I've always enjoyed drawing. I would draw Ninja Turtles. I would draw Power Rangers. I would draw whatever I had grown up with. I'd make my own characters, or I'd draw my own storylines. And like, I used to draw like my entire like Spider-Man comics myself. They were terrible quality. But the fact is, I did draw whole comic books as a kid. I just really liked putting my imagination down into something that other people could see. The same way that I kind of enjoyed doing videos like this. You know? Yeah, it's just something I was always connected to, I think. My dad was always something of an artist. But I don't know if I really gravitated because of him. So I think I only found out later on as a kid that he did art once in a while. I just really like making things. What is a TF character you think should have more appearances in modern media? That's going to be down to just my favorites again. I'd love for Blitzwing to actually have a real show in the movie rather than just a Starscream clone. I'd like to see him pop up in Earthspark. As far as just like modern media in general, I think there's a lot of character potential. The ones like Punch, Counterpunch, and Nightbeat that we just do not see nearly enough of. I mean, I think you could run some really cool mystery stories with those two running around. That's, again, like, we could do whole videos on characters who are underused. I think I have. What would be a good jumping on point for Kamen Rider? There's so many at this point. There are so many. Yeah, it really just going to be depending on your flavor. Every Kamen Rider series has kind of its own flavor. I used to equate it to like what kind of anime you'd be into, but these days, like, that's getting a lot harder to make a comparison for. So, I would say, like, I used to recommend O's as a great mid-level series, but O's has age on it now. I think it's still great, but it's lacking some of the more modern aesthetic and more modern tricks. 01's really good. I've gotten a friend hooked with X-Aid. I've gotten a friend hooked with Build. I'd suggest just look at a summary of a Rider series on Wikipedia. If it sounds like you'd be into it, go for it. Who's my favorite wrestler from any era? There's one. There's one outside the box. I've had a lot over the years. Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega is a current favorite. If I'm doing all-time favorite, Rob Van Dam. Always loved his look, loved his style of wrestling, a lot of striking, a lot of flipping. Loved the daredevil tactics that he would take. Really, really fun wrestler to watch. And like a wrestler who like has very interesting accolades to him. You know, he was the first guy in WWE to hold 2 world titles at once. He's the only guy that's ever competed in WWE, WCW, ECW, TNA Impact, and AEW. All 5 big companies. Things like that. And like he has these like really weird accolades to him. Also, I've gotten to talk to him for like an hour for a digital interview. He's a Soundwave fan and a Ghost Rider collector, by the way. Can we get some Super Sentai love on the channel? I mean, I would, if you look at my Twitter feed today, I just showed you what the algorithm does to me when I don't do a Transformer video. So, like, it's hard for me to, like, venture out from the safety zone now these days, because it's kind of dangerous for me career-wise to talk about the other stuff I really like. But again, I'm just so far behind on Sentai. I'm even farther behind on Sentai than I am Kamen Rider. Just because a lot just haven't been my interest lately. What about Unicron as a hive mind virus, like via Dark Energon? I think you could definitely make that an aspect of Unicron. You definitely could. There's a lot of Unicron in this one. There's the title for the video. Yeah, you could definitely have that as an aspect of Unicron. You could work that into the way he like took over Galvatron and the sweeps. You could make that like his way of influencing and creating his minions. It's kind of how Universe 1.0's storyline worked. But yeah, I don't think you could make that just be Unicron, because again, Unicron works best when he's some like overwhelming godlike force, and when he's just like a virus, you know, there's just something undercutting about that. It's way too minimal. Which franchise would you like crossover with Transformers? Kind of answered this a few times. Star Trek comes to mind. Power Rangers seems very obvious, and I'm still shocked they haven't done it. God, like I usually have like stock answers for this, but like I've been going like an hour now, and my mind is like mush at this point. See, if you could create a Transformer based on your logo, what would they be like? I don't know how you make a Transformer based on my logo unless you made it like some kind of spaceship. I would love he's not even like an Autobot or Decepticon. He just starts like carpet bombing whatever Transformer he runs across and he thinks looks like crap. Just like intergalactic fashion police for Transformers. It's like you like your robot mode is like turquoise on brown. Laser. No. Do you think a steam excavator or steam tractor could be Transformers? I think any vehicle could be a Transformer. We've had transforming biplanes and skateboards and bicycles. I think any vehicle could be a Transformer at this point. Better Owl, Nightshade or Prowl 2? Nightshade is best person. Best Owl, considering we've only had 2. But yeah, I love Nightshade as a character. And the design on that deluxe toy, I want that deluxe toy. Let's see. What do you think of the weirdest alt mode for Megatron and Optimus? You'd have to get into the novelty ones. There is a Megatron shoe. There's an Optimus Prime baseball hat. There's a Megatron Sega Genesis and an Optimus Prime PlayStation, which aren't even correctly opposing because they couldn't get Nintendo to sign off on a Super Nintendo or a Super Famicom. You know, things like that. They've had some weird stuff. We did videos for like everything Optimus and Megatron turned into. Like you can see the weird ones there. What do you think of old anime getting remakes / new dubs? New dubs, if it's like 90s era anime where the dub is just absolutely butchered, I'm all for that. Assuming the new translation is actually dead on accurate. Take out the Americanisms. Usagi, not Serena. That's worthy. That's worthy. I know they redubbed Sailor Moon. I don't know how accurate that dub is. Based on the trailers I saw, it really did feel like it wasn't sticking to script. Because it felt like stuff that wouldn't be in the Japanese version. But maybe I'm wrong. As far as full remakes, yeah. I mean, the animation tech has gotten so much better. And the art quality has gotten so much, like the standards are so much higher. Yeah, there's some animes I would love to see redone. Favorite non-show Beast Wars toy? I'm kind of attached to Bantor. Like Bantor is a fun little basic class figure. I really liked Scavenger as a kid. I don't know why. I like the shelf-warming like insect, but I kind of did. I'm trying to think of any others offhand because it was actually pretty rare when I went off the showcast for Beast Wars. I don't have too many like outside of that now that I think about it. I got Cyber Shark when it got reissued. He's nice, not top tier, but nice. That's another one that's like, I'd have to go back and look. There's not one off the top of my head. I like Snapper too, but that's because I liked having a turtle transformer. Would you go to TFCon Orlando in October? I most likely am. I haven't bought a ticket yet because I'm kind of hoping that like a premium ticket opens up. They're completely sold out now because at first I didn't think I'd get to go, and they sold out before I realized I would get to go. But most likely I'm going to be there. It's a 3-hour drive, assuming my car is fixed by then. Let's see, Age of Extinction. You mentioned doing a 2-hour podcast with a friend on the movie. Is it still available anywhere? Because I can't find it. I mean, we did the WTF episode that was Age of Extinction. Oh, okay. Who's like? Oh my god, it's been a long time. I've done a lot since then. It's hard for me to keep track of everything I've done. I do remember doing another Age of Extinction podcast. I honestly can't remember who I did it with. Would you be down to do a Transformers D&D on the channel? That's kind of weird considering D&D doesn't do well on my channel, much as I wish it would. I don't know if Transformers D&D would work better. I need to do a review of the actual, like, Essence D20 Transformer game that came out. I need to read through that whole book, and then I need to review it and give my thoughts. And we'll see how that does, and then we'll see if we get into any of that. Opinion on the TFW 2005 community, to be honest. Like I said before, I'm still a member on that message board, but I really don't interact anymore. I know there's some negativity on there, as is traditional of all Transformer messenger boards. But honestly, I don't really know the vibe of it anymore, if I'm being completely honest. What's your opinion on the Saw horror movie franchise? I really don't like horror movies to begin with, unless they're like the super campy, like 80s style, like Nightmare on Elm Streets. And I hate gore movies. I hate movies that are just this. I hate movies that are made just for the sake of like showing like blood and guts and just like body horror. I hate body horror. So yeah, it's not the answer you want if you're asking about Saw, but I absolutely hate those movies. Would I do any Kamen Gotchard booster pack openings? I almost did it for the Phase 0 box, because I did get the Phase 0 box. But considering there's so few cards in Phase 0, and you're basically guaranteed multiple full sets, I figured it wasn't really going to be that interesting. So I might do it for Phase 1. Because I know one of the big cards in Phase 1 is Agito. And I want to see if I pull that. Thoughts on Monstrosity's Kamen Rider Gaia documentary? Honestly, like, I know Matt worked really hard to pull up that information. There's a lot of stuff there from like really obscure sources he worked really hard to translate. I will admit I haven't seen it yet, and that makes me a very bad friend. Oh, and I really should have by now. I will watch it though, because I have no doubt that he did an amazing job on it. What Paramount put Nicolas Cage in the next Transformers movie? Can we literally name an Autobot Unhinged? Can we literally do that? I mean, Nicolas Cage is in a phase of his career where, like, he don't care. He's just having fun. So I think, like, super campy Nicolas Cage would be good. All right, so would you ever want to cover more Ultraman on the channel? I've been trying to keep up with the new Ultraman. Because it's dubbed, it's way easier for me to watch. So because I don't have to pay quite as much attention to it and still get everything. I have enjoyed it. Typically, I don't enjoy Ultraman. Just the way that's formatted and the way they still tell their stories just doesn't work for me. But this has been bad. This has not been bad. Let me get a few more episodes in, and then we'll see about that. How many cliffs could Cliff Jump if Cliff Jumper could jump cliffs? He's a car. He cannot. He can. You know how many cliffs he could jump? 1. And I don't know if it counts as... I don't know if it counts as jumping. I think it's called a free fall at that point. What fast food kids meal Transformer toys do you own? For Transformers, I think I've got a Black Arachnia and a Beetle floating around somewhere. I really don't have that many, to be completely honest. I think I picked up a Red Alert at some point, because I just found it in like a rescue bin. I do, it's not proper Transformers, but I did a whole video about the McDonald's changeables. I still have all of those, and I actually might be getting a few of the rare variants, which that'll be interesting. Have you seen the Iron Giant? Yeah, it's a classic. It's an absolute classic. So, keep it as simple as that. It's a really, really good movie. What Patreon tier do you have to be at to get a shout out at the beginning of a video? Any. You can pitch $1 and get your shout out at the beginning of a video. And it can be whatever crazy little name you attach to your Patreon account before you donate. So, yeah, have fun with it. But anyone who pitches in gets a shout out. What's your favorite fast food place, or which is better, burgers or wrap? If I really want a burger I know I'm really going to like, then it's probably going to be Five Guys. I know it's like grease on a bun, but it tastes really good. And I like the gigantic fry proportion they give me. Favorite fast food place in general is Culver's, though. Really like the custard. I like the options that aren't burgers. I'm not a big fan of their burger, but I really like their chicken tenders and I really like their fish. G1 Scourge is not a question. I don't even know what you're answering. You're telling me what the thumbnail for last month was. Did I hear about Pluto? Yeah, I heard Mickey got him neutered. Like that's not fun. That's cruel to do. What's the oldest Transformers Earth alt mode that is not from Beast Wars or the Dinobots? I think canonically the oldest one's probably Ransack from the ROTF line. We talked about him. He's a biplane. We just talked about him a couple days ago. I don't know of any older vehicle that's been made into an official Transformer. There are the Hearts of Steel, like steam locomotive style designs. But I don't think they get older than Ransack, if I'm thinking off the top of my head. You know, until one day someone figures out a transforming Model T. I think that's about as old as we've gotten at this point. You know, excluding Dinobots. You're very good for pointing that one out. Dream Transformer crossover is Mad Max. We kind of got that with Junkions right now. Cowboy Bebop, it's just a swordfish, right? You just kind of want that one to transform. I mean, that'd be okay. And then Mario Kart. Would the character be in the cart when they transform, or would the cart just be like no passenger and transform into the character? Who's your favorite Minicon? Oh, I can't remember his name offhand. It's the one that does come with, like, the one that comes with Wheeljack I really like, the Stealth Bomber one. Windshear is the name I want to say. I also really like Terra Dive. Like the SR-21 or SR-71, the Blackbird that turns into like not only a nice looking robot, but also a claw weapon. I thought that one was super cool too. Were you born with it or was it Maybelline? It's Head and Shoulders. My mom has had thin hair my entire life. Do you have any idea how much she like openly resents the fact that my hair is not only very long, but also very full and healthy? She has no idea how I got that gene, but thank you, Dad. Have you watched Neon Genesis Evangelion? I've watched bits of it, and it's really not for me. It's just too much in its head, and it's just like very kind of full of itself, I kind of find. I don't know. I've never gotten the hype behind the series because I don't know. It just never, like, I just never saw the appeal. Just found out you used to post on Reviewtopia. Yeah, so they brought me in what was supposed to be a rainmaker because my audience was bigger than anyone else on the site. And then no one really wanted to do crossovers with me, which is how you build an audience. Take the big guy and get them interested in all the others. That didn't work out. Made some friends on the site, though, before all the chaos went down. Still hang out with some to this day. So I don't regret my time on there just because of the connections I made. How long is your hair? The hair is like just beyond shoulder length. It really doesn't grow like any farther beyond that. Which is fine because I've had friends who have like hair that somehow they managed to grow it all the way down to their tailbone. I'm like, how do you go to the bathroom? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. And to wrap it up, why do you hate the color yellow so much? Are you mean about Hotshot? Like, I just make fun. Okay. I have no bias against colors. It's how you use those colors, you know? Bright yellow works if you're drawing a sun in the sky. Bright yellow works when you're drawing, like, flowers. Bright screaming yellow on a car just looks like a play school toy. It doesn't look like a cool action hero or like cool transformer. it just like, it's like obnoxiously yellow. But I really don't hold any color prejudice, you know, like you're wearing, you know, you're looking at a guy wearing like pink and pastel blue today. You know, I like all colors. That's the artist in me coming through. And that, after a very long run, is going to be my Q&A for the month. Thank you for everyone who pitched questions in this month. I hope you got it answered. I am sorry to the ones who gave me entire paragraphs or something that was just going to be like way too long to answer in a short term. I might revisit some of those as full videos though. Okay, so, and again, you made it all the way to the end, so I'll remind you, you can leave questions for the next month's Q&A in the comments below. Remember, one question per person, not per post. Keep it very short to something that we can answer in like a quick, snappy fashion so everyone gets a turn to have their question answered. And just keep it friendly and TOS. And it can be literally anything, but just like make sure I don't get in trouble for answering it. So there's your general rundown. And again, if you have a comment or you'd like to add to an answer or a question, just be nice and put no comment before you start typing. Helps me out, speeds things up. All right, I need to go get a bottle of water now. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alafi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this.
All right, you seem to have this. 5 minutes.